Welcome back to another FM8 tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at making this fun little sound, some sort of electro, pop, glide, synth, something. It sits between a bunch of different genres, so no matter what you're producing, in the EDM realms anyway, this sound is probably going to fit pretty well in your arsenal. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we make it. All right, so we're starting out in the FM matrix. This is where all the main routing action happens. Operator F is going to be our main carrier. I'm going to go ahead and crank that all the way up to 100%, the main output strip here, and get some sound. E is going to be a modulator. We're going to come back to that, just because it's not actually, well, we'll explain that in a second. Operator D is going to be this is going to be a saw wave. How about a saw wave? Give it a nice little edge. Operator F is going to be a saw as well. I want this to have a nice bite to it. All right, so Operator D, let's go ahead and route that into F, probably somewhere around quarter of the way up. Okay, in the vicinity. It doesn't have to be exact at this point. We're going to go ahead and alter the ratio of both D and F, but first we'll get D done. See what this sounds like. Very, very basic. Let's go ahead and we're going to drop F a bit. Alright, so this is going to make this a much deeper instrument, much more suited for a bass instrument. And the reason why I'm offsetting these just by a few cents in either direction is just to get a little bit of movement. Okay, it's already sounding pretty interesting. But you can hear a clear separation between the two tones, which is good. F is remaining dominant and bassy. So we're going to go ahead and set up operator C now. C, we're going to leave this as a sine wave, and we're going to drop this right about here. But again, we want this to have just a touch of movement to it. It only takes the slightest tweak with FM synthesis to get a new sound. So always good to start out with a less is more mentality and see where it gets you. We're going to take this about 1/3 of the way up and see what our sound is like now. Yeah, it's getting pretty fat. And fat is exactly where operator B comes in. Go ahead and turn that on. Now this is basically just going to be a sine wave, but we're going to drop the pitch to an even 0.5. Okay, and we're going to route this directly to the output. It's the only other main carrier wave in this sound. And the only real way to figure out how much sub bass you're actually adding is to listen to it without anything else. So that's nice. That might be a bit too much there. That's too quiet. I think I kind of like it where it was. Somewhere between 32 and 35, probably not much beyond that. The reason being is you don't actually want this to control the sound in any way, and you definitely don't want it to dominate. So moving back now to E, we'll see why exactly I held off on this. This is actually going to feed into D. It's just going to act as a modulator. So this is acting upon this the same way that this acted upon this. It's all pretty simple, even though it definitely begins to feel complex at points. So let's listen to this. Kind of like this gentle buzz that's right here, and you can tell that we're getting a slightly different sound each time. That's because we need to go in here and we need to turn on key syncing. Okay, and we're just going to put it on all of the panels here. And what this does is it triggers a new restart, or restarts each time a sound is triggered, so you get a much more consistent and even delivery of sound each time, so no longer changing. All right, so we're also going to route F into E and change its wave right from the very start. Okay, so pretty interesting sound, pretty good. We're going to go ahead and we're going to drop this. I want to maintain the bassy presence. I don't want to get any brighter than that, really. I'd like this to stay nice and crisp yet dark. Now the filter module is also going to be used, so we're going to route directly into that operator at 100% from F. Again, B is flying solo here. We want the pure sine wave to beef up, just kind of thicken the bottom end of whatever's coming out of F and Z in the long run. So go ahead and turn Z on at 100% in the main output strip. If you click on the little Z here in the FM matrix window, you can pull up the parameters that we can tweak here. We're just going to take the cutoff down a little bit, and if you want, you can back out F completely and B completely. So now we're just hearing what's coming through operator Z. I think no resonance is a good call here. Bring this up just a touch to get a little bit of brightness in there. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, somewhere right in here. It's subtle. It's a subtle difference, but it's nice because it thickens it and it gives it a little bit of character here. I don't want to deaden it too much, so we're not going to bring this up too much, but we'll probably leave it right here for right now. Go ahead and bring F back in and bring B back in to right around where we had it. Yeah, and you can hear the phasing that's happening because of just these slight offsets that we've made in the pitch values. It's a great sound, huh? Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the master window here. I'm going to set this as a mono instrument. It's a bass. You don't necessarily need to be playing a bunch of notes at once here. But we can increase the voices and spread them out through both the detune parameter and the pan parameter. So we can give it width, depth, and a lot more character and interest in movement too. Yeah, okay. And we'll bring up the pan a bit here. Now, we don't want this to be too big. It's still a bass. That's pretty nice. You may want it a little bit more narrow for your projects, but I like that. All right, we're also going to turn on portamento, and this is actually going to be kind of an extreme setting for the portamento, all the way up at 60 or so. Okay. So you just want to make sure that auto is on here. That means that it's only going to create glide between notes that overlap. Okay, and in the example that you heard in the intro video, and we'll get to this in a second, but you can see I've just put a simple 1-bar loop together. It's not the next big hit. It's just to kind of show off this glide feature. It's all. And there's just a slight overlap between these two notes here, and the second one is slightly sustained. So what you do is you're going through this in kind of a pluck programming approach, and then boom, it glides down to this lower note here all the way from up here. And it's a really nice sound. It makes things super, super funky. Now, of course, you don't have to keep glide on. So if you're not going to be using this synth or this style of synth with glide or with super short plucky notes, then just turn off the portamento. That's totally fine. Or just decrease the time if you just want to round out the edges of the notes and their transitions between. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of analog and digital to this sound. Okay, somewhere in this neighborhood, 28, 30, 32, somewhere in there. Digital, we want to be careful with. Just the slightest of difference is probably best in this sound. The reason why is because if you're going to go and start tweaking the EQ in your DAW, to clean it up, and then compress it and bring out some of the lesser heard elements, you can be rather surprised by some of the nastiness that could ensue, because you never really know what something like digital is going to add. And when you start cleaning things up in the EQ, you don't hear what you're bringing out in your compression yet. So when that happens, it kind of leads you on this wild goose chase of where the heck did this sound go wrong. So, all right, so now that we have the master window set up, we're going to go into the effects, go ahead and add some overdrive, and this is simply just to beef things up just a bit. Well, let's turn this up so we can actually hear what's happening. Okay, that's pretty good. And then let's just shape our sound a bit with some shelving and peak EQ. The shelving, we actually want to boost a fair amount of the mid-lows as well as the low. Now, of course, again, when you get to processing the sound outside of FM8, you want to drop off the very bottom of it. But this at least will give you a chance to get that boost in the meantime. And then we're just going to add another, we're going to have to guess here. It's probably going to be 100 or so hertz, and we'll shoot for around 500 hertz in here, something like that, to scoop out just a touch of the muddiness there. Now, these are by no means exacting instruments, and you can get a much better result out of EQing your stuff outside of FM8, but when you're designing sounds, you can only hear what you hear in the moment. So this is what you have to work with. And reverb. Now, I know it's bass, and a lot of people out there are thinking, why are we adding reverb? But we're just going to add just a touch, okay? And really, it's not the bass that we're adding the reverb to. It's more the mid-highs and the treble. And then it's going to be a very small amount. There, it's recognizable. That's not good. Okay, it's not really recognizable anymore. Okay, there we go. It's a slight thickness. And if you're someone that happens to, prefer the more advanced mix and mastering methods of, mid-side mastering, for instance, a small move like this, adding this tiny touch of reverb to the mid-highs and highs, can benefit greatly later on when it comes to mastering. You get a much, much richer, deeper, wider project sound. So let's go ahead and listen to our sound here just a little bit. And let's see how it matches up to the original. We'll just go ahead and we'll drag down this, go ahead, drag down this MIDI that I had from the demo at the beginning of the lesson. All right, it sounds okay, and maybe with a little bit of drum. Okay, yeah, it sounds all right. Of course, there's some tweaking to do in outside of FM8 probably. Just to get this one right for your specific project. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have questions, hit us up in our forums, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.